Hey guys, Chauncey Phillips here. Welcome to my April 5th DVD update. I talk about all the DVDs and Blu-rays I've gotten over the last 2 weeks or so. Like I always say, if you enjoy these DVD Blu-ray updates, definitely give this video a thumbs up. Leave me comments below what you thought about the titles I checked out in this update. Would love to hear what you thought of the movies. Any suggestions for movies coming out to check out for future updates. The first one I got from Paramount is Paranormal Activities, the Marked One, which is the Paranormal Activity spin-off film, which is kind of, you know, it branches off from the original film, but yet it actually connects in a pretty cool way to the original ones, you know, to the other series, the main Paranormal Activity series. And I really like how they found a way to tie them together. This movie's about these two friends, and the one is, you know, pretty much filming everything. It's, you know, of course, it's done like a found footage film, and there's something weird going on in the one kid's house in the apartment building underneath. There's something weird going on, and they kind of deal with like a lot of new kind of camera technologies, like with the, you know, with the GoPro cameras and all those kind of things, with putting them down to the vent to spy on the neighbors. Something weird happens to the, you know, the person in the house, the apartment below, and then something, they kind of go into the house to investigate, and then something happens to the one kid, and he starts to kind of have these weird kind of abilities, and it kind of deals with, like, you know, the kind of like chronicle abilities, which start off as really good, and then things start to change for the worse and get worse and worse. I like the vibe of this one. It really, you know, I just really like the way they made it different. You know, they kind of, like I said, it's a totally different story, but in a way, but they found a way to tie them all together, and I really like that aspect. I love how they did it, and it actually works pretty well. And you know, if you've seen all the films, you'll really think it's pretty cool the way they did elements to it. I know they're going to be doing another Paranormal Activity in the original series one that I think is coming out in October, which I'm definitely interested in seeing that one. But this one on here has the unrated version, the theatrical version, then extra found footage, and the unrated version is, I think it's about 16 minutes longer, so it's definitely a longer cut of the film. But if you like the Paranormal Activity films, definitely would check this out. This is definitely probably like my third favorite. My favorite ones, the first, the third, and then this one. The second one always was one I didn't love as much. The third one, though, I had some really pretty cool stuff to it. But I would definitely recommend checking this one. The next one from Warner Brothers is the second Hobbit film, The Hobbit, the Desolation of Smaug. I think that's how you say it. It's the Blu-ray DVD digital copy version. I don't know if there's a 3D version of this one or not. I think there was. I didn't get to see this one in theaters. When I saw the last one, I saw it in the 30 frames a second, or I don't remember exactly how many frames it was, but it was kind of a cool vibe to it. I'm sure down the line, you know, when they start to do that, more technology with that, they'll do releases of that version. But this one, you know, continues on the Hobbit story with all, you know, I'm really terrible with the names of the characters, so I'm not going to try the names. But the one main character going with all the hobbits, you know, to the journey is basically to get their kingdom back that's been taken over by a dragon. And, you know, the continuation on, it's the orcs that are kind of after them because, you know, they got away from them in the last film. So it's them, it deals with them going through this, you know, haunted forest. I mean, I like these films. My favorite Peter Jackson movies, though, are his horror movies, you know, especially Dead Alive and Bad Taste. And my all-time favorite, though, is Heavenly Creatures. Hopefully down the line he does movies on those kind of vibes as well. But I like these movies. I had a hard time getting into the Lord of the Rings films. I really liked them. I thought they were really well-done movies. I got into these ones a little bit more. They kind of have more of a comedic comedy vibe to them, like kind of like slapstick sort of silly things to them, which I like. It kind of more of that kind of vibe. Of course, though, they always put a lot of features on here, which is, you know, Peter Jackson invites you to the set, which is a number of set videos. New Zealand, Home of Middle Earth, which talks about the sets, and this is part 2 of that, and promotion, you know, production videos. But, you know, if you like the Hobbit films, I would definitely recommend checking this one out. Like I said, it's a continuation. The final part comes out, I think like December 16th or something like that of this year. The next one from Warner Brothers as well is the Grudge match, which is, you know, Robert De Niro and Sylvester Stallone, And that one funny guy who's like, "Oh, you know, you're not my trainer. I think you ate my trainer." That funny guy. He's been in a bunch of like movies in smaller parts and stuff. He's also in another movie that I have in this update. But this movie was basically about Stallone and De Niro, who were these old guys, these guys who, you know, used to box, had a really good career, and one of their last fight was together, and it ended up like in a draw, and they didn't really have a winner. And all these years later, they're trying to put together this pay-per-view match. Promoter is trying to get both of them to come back together for this big match. And it's kind of like them trying to get them back together, and all the kind of arguments about them not really wanting to see each other again, because all kinds of problems that they've had about taking the other one's girlfriend, all these kind of things. And it's about them training. So it's all these kind of funny things about them training for the fight and those kind of things. Has a bunch of different features on here. You know, Kevin Hart is in the film as the one putting together kind of representing the group putting together the pay-per-view. So there's features on here with him, ringside with Tyson Holyfield and Larry Holmes and I don't know how you say his name, Blow by Blow with Larry Holmes, and 2 alternate endings. I thought this was a fun film, though. Not an absolutely perfect film, but when it comes to like Rob De Niro and Sylvester Stallone, when you put them together, it's kind of just a fun kind of movie, though. You know, it's not, like I said, not an absolutely perfect movie, but a fun movie. The next one is one that I was really looking forward to seeing. Heard a lot of really mixed things about it. I don't really know why. I mean, I guess I can understand some people wouldn't like this kind of movie. I thought it was actually pretty cool. And it's Nurse 3D. And it's about this woman who works this nursing, you know, as a nurse. And they're kind of like old-time looking nurses, like the Candy Striper kind of nurses. I don't know if there's really nurses that look like this, anymore. But it had that kind of old vibe to it where you couldn't really have a setting to it. But she kind of goes out at night and basically kills married men, you know, who are cheating on their wives. You know, she kind of gives them a chance, and if they go for the bait, she ends up killing them. And she ends up, you know, there's a new nurse who's coming in to where she works. And she's like training her. She's kind of her understudy, you know, training her. She kind of gets obsessed with her and starts to kind of have feelings for her. And there's like this major obsession with her. And it kind of has like a single white female kind of vibe of her with this obsession, you know, and her killing all these people. The 3D in it was pretty cool. It's got some depth to it, but the main stuff of the 3D is the kills. And there's some really pretty cool kill scenes in this in 3D. The majority of it is the last 30 minutes is where it really has a lot of segments to it. A lot of cool people pop up in this too, like Niecy Nash, you know, from Reno 911. She has a really pretty funny part in this. I think it's her first horror film. And then Kathleen Turner has this random cameo in the movie. And it's like only like 30 seconds. And she's like the head of all the nurses. And I don't know, I just like this movie. I had a lot of fun with this movie. Like I said, I don't think everyone would like this movie, but I like these kind of vibes. It kind of reminded me a little bit of American Mary with dealing with like all that kind of medical things and stuff like that. But I would recommend this one a lot. I think it was a really pretty cool movie. And, you know, the 3D comes with the Blu-ray, so if you have the Blu-ray, you might as well check it out in 3D, because like I said, it does add to it. The next one is another one that I didn't know a whole lot about, and then really liked it. It was one of those ones that I got really surprised with how much I liked it. It had that kind of feel to me as like the to-do list, and one of these kind of movies that not a lot of people are going to see, but was a really fun comedy. The main actress in this is going to be in the 50 Shades of Grey movie, from what I've heard, is like the lead. So like they were talking about how she's got all these things coming up. But the movie's Date and Switch, and it's a very different take on the typical relationship movies. It's about these two friends who are, you know, in the last year of high school. They're about to graduate, and they're still virgins, and they're planning to, you know, want to lose their virginity, before, you know, the end of, you know, they graduate before prom. So they make this pot brownie that they plan to eat, you know, to celebrate. They aren't going to be able to have it until they, you know, are no longer virgins. And then the night they make the pact, the one friend ends up taking the guy out to, you know, and telling him in secret that he's gay. And it kind of, like, you know, changes everything. And the one friend is kind of, you know, dealing with that, and then sort of trying to it's like kind of about discovering yourself and taking the guy to gay clubs and trying to find him somebody, and at the same time he's kind of overthinking his whole life, and it's just really different for him to find out that his friend since grade school has come out to him. And it's just kind of that's what it is them trying to find relationships. A lot of people pop up, and there's some pretty cool cameos in it. Like I said though, I liked it because it was different, and I liked the messages to it, and I just really thought this was a really, really good movie, and I really think people would like this. Like I said, if you like the To-Do List and that kind of humor, and you kind of reminded me too of an 80s comedy, that kind of a vibe, but turned upside down, changing it, and I liked that. I liked that it was different, and it went to different areas that you do not see with these kind of movies, and that's one main thing I would definitely recommend. The next one, there's going to be two movies that were for Lifetime. Lifetime has started doing more of these horror movies lately. The first one's from Lionsgate, and it's Flowers in the Attic. This is you can't really say it's a remake, but it's another, it's kind of more to the book. I absolutely love the 80s one with Christy Swanson. I know a lot of people say, oh, it has nothing to do with the book, or, it's, all changed around. That's like one of my top movies. And I know it's not a perfect movie, but I just really love that movie. Always like, especially Christy Swanson movies like Mannequin 2 on the Move and Deadly Friend. This one, though, has Heather Graham as the mother and Ellen Burstyn as the grandmother. And Ellen Burstyn is pretty good as the grandmother. Heather Graham, I thought, was kind of struggling a little bit with the part. I mean, she wasn't bad, but the other woman who was in the 80s one was so mean. Like, you hated her after a while because of what she was doing to the kids. But the story is about these kids, father dies, and the mother takes them to their grandmother, and the grandmother, for one reason or another, has totally disowned the family. The grandfather, who's dying, knows nothing about these children, and if he did, he would lose it. So the mother ends up hiding the kids in the attic of the grandmother's house and locking them up there, and it's them trying to survive in this attic and going up in the top floor, and then going into the attic and kind of making a life up there, and just like being there for all this time. Like I said, though, it's way more to the book, and it deals more too with the brother and sister, elder brother and sister, kind of having this weird relationship, and it gets more into that they didn't get into in the 80s. I wouldn't say it's absolutely perfect, but it's a different interpretation, like I said, more to the book. I'm interested in seeing if they end up doing more of these, because they never did a sequel to the original 80s one. But I wouldn't say it's not worth checking out. It really, like I said, it's very different. But I thought it was pretty interesting. I think it's pretty cool. Lifetime is, changing it up and doing these really different kind of movies. And I like some of their movies. I have to admit it. There's been some of them that I really do like. The next one is from Sony. It's another Lifetime one as well. And this one I think I would say I like a bit better than The Flowers in the Attic. And this is Christina Ricci and Lizzie Borden took an axe. And it's, her playing Lizzie Borden, the woman who in real life, killed her mother and father. And then it's basically about, her killing her mother and father, and then the investigation and the trial of, because, if you know the original, I don't want to say what happens, but if you look it up, you know what happens. But it's basically about, the trial and them, because back then when this happened, the fact of putting a woman on trial for these really grisly murders, and they showed the murders so many different times to the parents, and what's kind of, it was actually done just like the pictures. If you've seen the original pictures from the crime scenes, it was really well done and really gruesome. Like I said, for a Lifetime movie, it's very gruesome. They did one thing in this where they used kind of like modern music, and at first it seemed kind of weird, and then started to fit pretty well. And Christina Ricci was actually really pretty good in this role. I've always been a fan of her and everything, forever. And I thought she was really good in this. And I think it's one of her only kind of horror movies that I can think of. I mean, you could say the Addams Family movies, but this is way more of a horror element to it. But I would check this one out. The next one is one that I've been really excited to see that, Full Moon is starting to put out Blu-rays. And this is one of, I think Epic Pictures or another company put this out on DVD years back. And this is Tourist Trap, which is, the director of this also did Crawl Space, which is one that I really love with Klaus Kinski. And this movie is really before its time and ended up only getting a PG rating, which is kind of really crazy, because to look at this now, this would never fly with a PG rating. This would definitely get an R just because of the tone and the vibe of this. But this is about these kids that end up in this, off the road, and their car breaks down at this old tourist trap, which is abandoned, and it's this wax museum. They go inside the guy, to talk to the guy, and one by one the people start disappearing, and there's this crazy character wearing these crazy masks, and the wax statues are moving around, and all these crazy things, and the one has the ability to move things. It's a very crazy, trippy, weird 70s film. Pino D'Angio, I think that's how you say his name, did the music for tons of movies. One of my favorites, though, I was saying he did the music for Body Double, which is one of the movies that I really, really love. And the music, though, was really good. I thought the opening credits song, though, always thought was kind of weird. It was just like kind of weird sounds. I would have opened it with one of the other ones, but I guess it was supposed to kind of sound like things winding up because the things were kind of moving. It was just a really creepy, weird movie. I really like this one. It has a new documentary on here, which is like 30 minutes, talking to the director, telling stories about the making of the movie, and it looks really good on Blu-ray. I think that Full Moon did a good job cleaning this one up. I mean, it's as good as you ever would expect to see this movie look. The next one from Anchor Bay is August Osage County, which is one of those ones which I wasn't sure I was going to think of it, because from the trailers it kind of shows us a lot of sitting around the table, and it was so much more than that. It was some movies, like the trailers just don't make a movie super interesting, and this movie I actually really liked. Mel Streep was really good in this, and it's about her husband has disappeared and left a woman there who's like a maid to kind of watch over her. The second that she starts working there, the husband's gone missing. And, Mel Streep is sick, she has cancer, is not well, and she has her whole family ends up coming to see her because they know she's not well, and they know that her husband's gone missing. And it's when, they come back, and it's kind of about them having all these issues and all these arguments with each other about things, and, problems with, it's all kinds of things. They don't see the one daughter, and then all these kind of things they're finding out about. One person's in love with somebody, and there's all kinds of issues with that, and it's just all kind of about really just a real gloom and doom family problems movie with as many issues as you can think of this family is having, but extremely well acted. And Mel Streep is playing a character who is abusing, the prescription drugs that she's given. She has bottles and bottles of pills everywhere, so she is a total disaster. And, you find out about the husband who went missing and what has happened, and she's a total wreck from the whole thing. Don't want to talk about too much, but it was based on a play, but was very, very well done, very well acted. Julia Roberts was really good in it. I thought everybody was really good in this. It's just a really good character study piece. The next one from Anchor Bay as well is Philomena, and this is one of those movies that was really good, but just annoying. It just annoyed me about these nuns. These were really mean, bad nuns in this movie. Like, if you watch this movie, I don't think anyone's going to like these nuns. And it's basically about this woman who, years back, was taken, she ended up getting pregnant. She wasn't married, and her family was really religious, and they put her in a convent, to have the baby. And the nuns ended up taking the baby away from her when the baby was very young. And it was like they allowed her to still stay there, but only could see her for the baby for like an hour a day. And they made her live there for a year. And it was just really depressing when they took the baby. And, she ended up telling her daughter, this is 50 years after this had happened, about this. She kept this secret, and, she wanted to find this boy who, she hadn't seen, in 50 years, and doesn't, know if he knows about her or anything. And it's about her finding this journalist, played by Steve Coogan, and, going on the journey to try and find out about what happened to him. It's just very depressing when they go to the nuns. The nuns are really mean. They're not like Sister Act nuns. They're mean nuns. And you're going to watch this movie and hate these damn nuns. Like, just even talking about it makes me emotional and just upset. And the whole thing, like, I don't know. It was just a really well done movie, but just so damn sad. I would recommend it, but just be prepared. You're going to cry terribly. You're going to be mad at the damn nuns. And you're going to be like, damn nuns. I'm not afraid to say it. Those nuns in that movie were mean. The next one I talk about from Magnolia, from the Magnet line, is Best Night Ever. And this is actually directed by the people that did, Meet the Spartans, epic movie and date movie. This is their first R-rated movie. I mean, you could say that some of the spoofs were like unrated, so they could almost be R, but this is their first like full-on R-rated movie, and their first movie that's not a spoof. And I actually found quite a bit of it funny. It's, to me, I think it was one of the, in my opinion, the first movie of theirs that I've watched that I actually really liked and had fun with. It's a found footage movie about, basically, they're going to Vegas to go to a bachelorette party, and they have it all planned out, and the one is filming the whole thing, the one's getting married, and it's kind of about everything going wrong on this bachelorette party. They get robbed, and them trying to get their money back. All the kind of issues. There's like this crazy stuff that happens at the male strip club, and it's basically like that. There's this really funny scene too in a trash can. Like I said, though, it's a lot of people are going to think that see that they directed it and not want to see it because they don't like those movies, but it really feels nothing like those movies. It's a totally different movie, and I really hope they do more movies in this kind of vibe. When they totally, there's a scene in this, that is. It's pretty much like the Borat scene in the hotel. If you know that scene from Borat, only this time it's with this woman, and it's really a crazy scene. And there's some really funny stuff in this. It has the vibes of kind of like Bridesmaids and things like that, but I really thought it was a lot funnier than I thought it was. It has deleted scenes on here and interviews. I thought it was a funny movie, though. The next one is like an ultimate classic, and it's the new edition of Fargo. I think this is the 20th. No, not the 20th. Is it the 20th or? No, I think it's from 96. It's like 18. I don't know what exact, how many years it exactly is for sure, but it's the Coen brothers film. And I think originally they only said that Joe Coen directed it, but now on like the IMDb and a lot of places they say they both did. But they're also going to be turning this into a series, like a mini series. I'm really interested in seeing what they do with that. But this is just such a perfect movie, and it's William H. Macy, who's having all these financial problems. He works at this car dealership, and he ends up hiring Steve Buscemi, and the other character was Steve Buscemi, to kidnap his wife so he can, hold her ransom so he can get the money from her, her father to try and, get out of debt. And, he needs this to work out. And it's about Steve Buscemi and the other guy. I can never remember the actor's name, but them, kidnapping her, and things go terribly wrong. They end up killing these people along the way. And it has Francis McDormand's character investigating these murders and trying to put together the pieces of who's who. There's some great scenes in this amazingly written film. William H. Macy is just definitely, I would say, one of my favorite movies with him. This is just one of those movies where, I like to kind of wait a couple years before I watch it, and it's one of those movies I feel like you could watch it all the time. It's such a well-made movie, flows so well, absolutely perfect film. Would highly recommend this one. This is like, I believe it's a new transfer version. Looks really good, though. I like the new cover they put on this. The next one from IFC is Contracted, which is one that I've been really looking forward to seeing for a long time, and was watching it really loved and was impressed with this movie. It's about this woman who's at a party. Her girlfriend didn't come, to that night, and she's kind of depressed about it that she didn't show up. And she ends up getting, there's this guy there who ends up giving her a drink and drugging her, and she ends up getting date raped by this guy. And at the beginning of the movie, you see something weird going on with this guy at the mortuary, and and you can tell something's going on. And, the next morning she wakes up after what happened, and, things start to go bad for her. And she starts to essentially, fall apart. Her nails are falling apart. She's getting all screwed up. There's bugs everywhere. She's bleeding. It's basically about her falling apart terribly. And there's a scene when she goes to the doctor, and the doctor is giving the worst advice doctor in the universe. Going, oh, it's just a rash. Just put some cream on it. And it is kind of, the one thing I will say is it's really funny how people were not and it's true though, in real life people don't take notice of things, and like if they see stuff, they don't really do anything about it. So they see that she's a mess, and or a lot of them are just sort of like, I don't know, I'm not concerned myself with it. But it's about her kind of falling apart and all these things going wrong, and she doesn't want to tell anybody about what happened. And they're looking for the guy, the police are, but she doesn't want to tell anybody because she doesn't want her girlfriend to find out about what happened. You know, even though she was date raped, she still doesn't want her to find out because she'll probably turn it around on her. But I really thought this was a really cool, different movie and a really different vibe on these kind of movies, and I would definitely highly recommend checking this one out. The next one from Ram Releasing is Forgetting the Girl, which was a pretty cool one about this guy who's a photographer. He takes headshots of girls, and it's a kind of deal like him talking all about his failed relationships. He has all these problems with relationships, is never having any luck with women, and it's all about him talking about how he forgets about the girls, and like talking about the things that he does. Like, oh, I forgot about this girl by this and doing this, and it's pretty much about him getting these obsessions with people, and that's pretty much what it is. I'm just kind of blanking on some of the details now because I watched it about a week or so ago. But it's also the woman that he works with there, she's kind of obsessed with him, and she's following him around everywhere. But it's pretty much about people going missing. But you see that he's obsessed with these women and the things that he does to forget them. I thought it was a really pretty well done movie. It's kind of blanking on what it reminded me of, but I think I would definitely recommend. Like I said though, sometimes movies I forget, when I watch too many movies on similar tones, I forget all the details. The next one from Accelerated Media is Holy Ghost People. And this one is about this girl who gets a letter from her sister, and saying that she's at this commune, this religious commune, and to please come and get her quick. So she goes there with this guy that she ends up paying money to, use his car to go with him to go to this commune. It's out in the middle of nowhere. They end up going there, and they kind of have to play and pretend like they're, father and daughter to kind of, blend in there and be accepted into this commune. It's like all these crazy people, and the one guy, is holding a snake, and it's all those kind of like religious stuff when they talking in tongues and all that kind of stuff. But they have like, poisonous snakes that he's holding up and doing all this crazy stuff. And it's pretty much about her going there to try and figure out what happened to her sister and kind of asking people, and they're not telling her. It's kind of like the Wicker Man kind of vibe, when they go there and they're kind of, you could tell they're covering something up and they're hiding things. The main guy who played the guy who had the snake with him, the head of the commune, was really pretty cool. He had some pretty cool scenes in this, and this I thought was a very well made film, and really well put together, and some really pretty creepy vibes to it. And I liked that it had like a real dingy, real like sweaty, gross. It just had that kind of vibe, like they're out in the middle of nowhere, and it was just sort of disgusting, sticky, gross feeling to the movie. I liked it though. The next one from Image is the complete second season of Halston. I believe that's how you say that. And it's the Joe Lynch, Adam Green show. And it's done like a sitcom. This was for FearNet. I don't know if they're going to be doing a third season of this or not. And it's Joe Lynch and Adam Green kind of playing kind of a spoof almost of themselves, and these guys that work for like a TV network, and they put on commercials and things like that. And they work for Dee Snider, who's playing this kind of another, almost like a spoof of himself. He's like the head of this channel, and he's wearing like his old wardrobes. He's not Dee Snider, but he's kind of pretty much Dee Snider, but not Dee Snider. And it's about them putting together a show. The ones I really like, which my favorites on here, was the ones when they were trying to put together this short film. And they had Kane Hodder on there trying to get him to put together this short film, and they ended up getting him to do it. And this was right after he tried to, and this is of course a spoof, tried to take his own life because he finally found out that he was replaced for Freddy vs. Jason. It's them trying to put together this film with him, and he's all depressed and crying all the time. He was really funny in this. I definitely would like to see him do more comedy parts. He's really funny, and that kind of stuff. Danielle Harris is in it, and he ends up bringing her in, and she plays a parody of herself. And she's all addicted to pills, and it's always trying to get pills from the one, Adam Green's character. It's just a fun show with a real horror element to it. It has commentaries on here, deleted scenes, and the special Christmas episode. But it's a fun show, like done like a sitcom spoof. The next one from Image as well is Camp Dread. Has Eric Roberts. Danielle Harris, though, is only in this movie for probably like 4 minutes. Felissa Rose, I really think should be on the cover though, because she was in most of the movie, a good majority of the film, and it's about Eric Roberts, who's kind of playing like the director of Sleepaway Camp, like a Sleepaway Camp kind of series, and he's trying to get his new movie made, and he ends up coming up with this idea of getting these kind of troubled young adults and filming them to try and kind of orchestrate a found footage kind of reality show that will become a version of kind of like a remake of the Sleepaway Camp kind of films that he made. So he brings these people there who are kind of either go there or go to jail. It's pretty much like it's almost like their rehab. Brings them in there, and people start dying off one by one. Felissa Rose comes playing almost like a version of herself, but from those films. And that's pretty much what it is, but they had hidden cameras all throughout the camp, but then they had these button cameras, and I don't understand why they never used a shot from it. There's a lot of angles too where they didn't have coverage. I was thinking they should have, like in a few instances, used them. There were some pretty different kills in it. It's just not a perfect film, and I really thought Danielle Harris was going to be in it more, and a lot of people are going to be like, oh, she's only in it for a little bit. Eric Roberts, though, was pretty good, but a lot of it was, though, him behind the TV, kind of like House on Haunted Hill, sort of watching it. The next one is a documentary on Divine, and I've always been a fan of, Divine, the John Waters films, and I actually went to the same high school that Divine went to, so that was pretty cool, and they even showed a shot of the school, and, they filmed Cinema at that high school, so I've always, been a fan of John Waters films, and all those kind of things. And this is a documentary about Divine's life, and it talks all about, through the beginning stages of how he started out, the early films he did with John Waters, and also talks a lot about the musical career that he had, which was, really kind of ahead of its time type of music that he was making back then. And that was a pretty cool aspect of it, like the kind of disco pop music that he did. And it was very sad about Divine's life, though, because he died right when he was getting taken seriously and starting to do male roles, which he really wanted to do. And the day before he was starting shooting Married with Children, he died. So that was always something that I found really sad. Was I would love to have seen Divine on Married with Children and seen, it was just been so cool to be able to watch back Married with Children now and seeing Divine in them. I would definitely check this one out. Has great interviews with John Waters and a number of the characters from all the early John Waters films. Just a really well done documentary. The next one from E1 is Knights of Badassdom, which is a Joe Lynch film, who's also in the Halston films. And this is, him with Steve Zahn. Steve Zahn stars this, Peter Dinklage. It's about, like, these kind of reenactors, who like role players who play, like, night games and things like that. Kind of like that Knight Riders movie. But this is done more of a comedic. I thought there some of the jokes kind of I think it was going to go over a lot of people's heads. They're kind of more like, you have to really know some of these things and know what they're talking about to find some of it really funny. There was some cool gore scenes and things like that in it, but it wasn't my absolute favorite. But like I said, it has Steve Zahn in it. It's about these people, putting together this reenactment role-playing game. They have this book that the one character bought off eBay, and they end up accidentally, this book's actually a real spell book, and they end up bringing this demon back who's, taking the form of the one's ex-girlfriend from a picture and killing them all off one by one, and they have to try and stop her. It's okay. It's got a bunch of features on here, Comic-Con panel, the whole panel from Comic-Con, interviews. Like I said, though, not my absolute favorite, but it's a fun movie, but I think if you know that world more, you'd like it a little bit more. The next one from Brink is Low, and this was a really, really weird, cool movie about this woman who ends up being followed by this really strange man out in the middle of the kind of in the woods, and he's following around, and that's pretty much what it is you see the woman taking something out to bury out in the woods. You don't know what it is, and you're finding out about these two people and what this guy who's following her around and then, like, basically kidnapping her and walking her through these woods. You find out what he did and then what she did, and these kind of stories about them, and that's pretty much what it is. It's just a really, really different, well-made character piece about these two people who are both, the one's the victim, but at the same time, she's involved in something pretty bad, and these kind of bad situations that are going on, and some really weird aspects that come into play. I really like this one. Like I said, it's very hard to explain, but really well made. I think they only made it for like $2,000 and really had good production values. The next one from Image is Black Coffee, which is a relationship kind of pretty well done relationship movie. This guy who ends up working for his friend, he ended up losing his job, doing construction, ended up working for his friend, delivering coffee, and ends up meeting this one woman. And it's pretty much a love story about him meeting her, and, what we really did was carpentry, and ends up, painting her office and helping her, get everything together. And, she kind of has this old boyfriend that she's ex-husband that she still sees off and on. And it's kind of about them, those two falling in love, but yet at the same time, he's in the way of things. And I thought it was a pretty well done romantic film. These are always kind of fun things to watch, to kind of shake it up and watch something a little different. The next one, I had fun with this, and I think they made like a bunch of these before, like Dog Who Saved Halloween. And it's got, it has Dean Cain and Mario Lopez as the voice of the dog. And this one's The Dog That Saved Easter, and it's about this dog. And like I said, I think they've made a whole bunch of these. But this dog who ends up getting, kind of reminded me like a Bingo. He ends up getting left off at this daycare. And, the Mario Lopez and these kind of like crook friends of his make this plan to, like, right next door to this doggy daycare kind of place is another doggy daycare who wants them to put this place out of business and find a way to close them down. So the hoodlum kind of characters with with Dean Cain, and it's kind of like bumbling characters, kind of like Home Alone. And the one guy from the Grudge match was in it. He said they thought he ate his trainer. And there was some funny stuff in it. It reminded me like of an old Moonbeam film. Like that kind of silly, kind of strange stuff going on with the dogs and them trying to break in and trying to steal money from the place. And I thought it was just a fun kids movie. I think kids will like this a lot more. But it was just a fun, silly movie. The next one, I just finished looking at some of these, and it's I always like to every so often check out the new Power Rangers just to see like kind of what they're like now. This one is the Power Rangers Mega Force, the Great Dragon Spirit. And one of these ones I liked on here a lot was this kind of character who collects people in this sort of sack. If they're laughing, he collects them and kind of puts them in there. And, they have to fight him and, so they can free the other Power Rangers, all the people like of the world that he's taken in. I think it's kind of cool, too, that they still shoot these just like they did years back, where they use footage that they shot in Japan and then cut it in with stuff. And I think they're shooting these in New Zealand now, because it said the end credits New Zealand. So I guess like the American parts, which are supposed to be in America, are shot in New Zealand. But they're just fun. I have a fun time watching these. Like I said, I occasionally check them out just to see, what they're like now. Haven't seen, I wouldn't be able to tell you about the characters or anything like that. But they're just a fun series. The next one, my friend, David Sterling, has been in a number of my video blogs and been in some of his films. This is his new project, new film that he produced, Empire of the Apes, which is now out. And it's, directed by Mark Polonia, and it's done in his total style. His fun. I always love the films that the Polonias did in the past, and it has that kind of total vibe to it. And it's about these apes, these girls that are taken in on this ship, end up escaping and end up on a planet of apes. And it's kind of just a fun movie about them, like with the, basically just getting taken in and captured by the apes and trying to find a way to escape, and the people that they escape from coming back after them. But like I said, it's a fun movie done in the Polonia Brothers style film, and I would definitely check it out for sure. The next one, this one I thought was okay. It's a relationship kind of thing about like these single guys trying to get dates. It has Skylar Astin, who was in 21 and Over, with Jeff Chang. I really like that movie though. And Chad Michael Murray, and it's called Cavemen. It's about a group of these guys who live in this kind of loft where they kind of separate all the rooms with curtains. And the one guy's trying to write a screenplay, and it's just pretty much about these characters trying to get, relationships, and they have all kinds of problems, and mainly the one guy, the Skylar Astin's character, trying to get dates and going to, trying to meet with different women, and things are always going wrong and things like that, while he's trying to work on a screenplay. It's an okay movie, but not like my favorite of these kind of films. The next ones I got are from Vinegar Syndrome, and I'm going to cover this one part over in the cover so no one says anything about it. But it has a Jekyll and Hyde portfolio and a Clockwork Blue, and these are Vinegar Syndrome does a really good job cleaning up these old movies that I feel like are totally forgotten, and the treatment that they do to these are really good. I like, though, too, that they leave the scratches and things like in that, because it gives it that old grindhouse feel. But Clockwork Blue is a kind of these women at this nursing school that are getting killed off by, like, a Jekyll and Hyde character. It's a fun movie. And the other one, and this is one that Troma released in the past. This is a new widescreen edition of Lust for Freedom, and Lloyd Kaufman has an interview on here, and this is a fun one, but it's kind of like the song is cooler than the movie. It's this cool song. It's like Lust for Freedom, and I feel like that was like the coolest aspect of the movie. And this one woman who was like a wrestling character, she was pretty cool in the movie, but it's like one that gets kind of kidnapped by the police and framed and put in there and trying to escape. And the last ones here are the Gaslit Love of Johnny X, which I got from the director at the Montrapalooza convention. And this has a whole bunch of people are in this. Paul Williams is in this movie. I'm trying to think of everyone who's in this. Will Keenan is in this movie. Just a whole bunch of people. Reggie Bannister. And it's a movie about this. It's kind of like done in a parody of like the 50s space films. And it's about this guy who has this suit where he has all these powers from it, ends up getting exiled to Earth, sent to Earth, and he has, builds this gang of people, and, he ends up getting this deal with Reggie Bannister, and to try and get this singer. It's very, very hard to explain, but Reggie Bannister was really cool in it, and it's about this one singer, this old singer they were trying to recruit. Like I said, though, it's a throwback musical kind of film with some pretty cool musical scenes in it, too, like these 50s kind of movies. It has like a crybaby kind of feel to it. Like I said, it's harder than you can imagine to explain, but really was a fun movie, though. And the last one I got is a Patton Oswalt comedy. It's a CD DVD. I always liked Patton Oswalt. There's some really funny stuff in this with him talking about it's basically him telling jokes about a lot of stuff with his kids and all these kind of problems he's ended up having with his kids and about things that are on TV and, talking about things at the park and about other kids and how all that kind of stuff. And there was some funny stuff he was saying about Florida in this. But it has the CD version of it and the DVD of it. Always liked Patton Oswalt. Always been more of a fan, though, of him in films acting-wise. But it's a cool, pretty good stand-up special. It was actually filmed in San Diego, so that was pretty cool. Anyway, though, not sure how long this video is. I'm sure it's long. But thanks again for watching, everyone, and for subscribing. Definitely give this video a thumbs up, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.